My name is Jeff Schmidt, and I will be your host for today's post-draft analysis. Today, we're going to be going over our best and worst picks from each of the first 4 rounds. Before each of us dive into our picks, I'd like to just give you some of the news from today. Blake Bortles' option was actually picked up by the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was pretty surprising to most of us, but it makes a lot of sense. Teddy Bridgewater's, however, was not picked up. The Vikings did, however, pick up Anthony Barr's option. And then we were all curious, and we found out that Takk McKinley will not be fined following his somewhat of a rant after he was drafted during an interview. He kind of spewed out some profanities, but the league has said that they're not going to fine him. Also, today, a number of undrafted free agents began to sign. Some notables: Katie Cannon signed with the 49ers. Ben Boulware of the Clemson Tigers signed with the Carolina Panthers. And Travis Rudolph, as many of you know, had a great story earlier in the season with a young child at a elementary school, signed with the Giants. So let's get into our picks for the best pick of the first round. And Mike, I would like to start with you.
All right, sure. My best pick in the first round was TJ Watt. I think that I had him valued in, I gave him a top 20 overall grade, which by my board actually put him in the top 10 overall. So I think he fits what the Steelers do with like a glove. And I think that's a really, really good value pick for them.
Yeah.
Miller?
Round one, I definitely had the one and only teacher's pet, Reuben Foster, to the 49ers at 31. Before the college season even started, he was obviously a top 5 talent on most boards. He remained there for me personally throughout the season and throughout the draft process, regardless of off-the-field issues. Top 5 guy with incredible sideline-to-sideline instincts, violent hitter, something that's missing in today's NFL. There's not too many guys like him. Is there a risk? Absolutely. That's why he fell to 31. But top 5 talent at 31 you can't beat, and probably my defensive rookie of the year candidate.
Awesome. How about you, Josh?
I took, I think it was an easy one, Jonathan Allen to the Redskins. He's a good scheme fit. He fit what they needed badly, was a defensive line. He's good against the run. He can collapse the pocket. He's got good strength. He just fits really good as 5 technique for them.
And finally, I'll close out. My value pick was O.J. Howard. I mean, how does this guy fall to number 19 when a lot of experts, including some of us, were projecting him to be in the top 5 of the draft? I mean, the Bucs already have Cameron Brate, but he wasn't used as much as a lot of people think. Howard's going to come in there, and he's going to mesh extremely well with Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans and just open them up over the middle. So I cannot wait to see.
Headaches for the Falcons.
Oh, yeah. Both you guys are going to be – well, actually not both of you. Miller's going to be in trouble over there. There's going to be some 52-49 type games going on down there in the NFC South. But it's just crazy to see this guy get out of the top 15 even. It's just what value for the Tampa Bay Bucs. And now I'd like to start off with my worst pick of the first round, which happened to be Adoree Jackson. I just think this guy is developing still. He's not ready to be that front of the line cornerback. I think he can come right away and be that potential slot corner, but I don't see him dominating number 1 receivers on the outside. He doesn't really have great height. He's only 5'10". He kind of struggles with big receivers, so it's going to be an issue when he goes up against some of the elite talent in the NFL. I think the Titans – I think he's worthy of a first-round pick. I just don't see him going at 18. I think there were some better corners still available when he actually went. But if the Titans do use him in that kick return, punt return fashion, and maybe put him on offense, I think they might have some value there. But I think it was just a total reach at number 18. Josh, who's your worst pick of the first round?
I'm actually going with my own team with Taco Charlton. It wasn't Tuesday when they picked him, so you can't be Taco Tuesday. But
was Taco Thursday.
Yeah, and it wasn't a good day for tacos. I just don't see him as a right end like they wanted. I think he plays with good length, but he struggles to actually get to the quarterback. I just don't like. I think he's going to be a left defense end in our scheme, and we have 50,000 left defense ends already, and we're going to still struggle to find that right defense end. And I think it's going to be a big need for us next offseason. But I wanted TJ Watt.
I understand that. So real quick, I know Draft Maverick had an interesting question on Twitter. Would you rather have 100 tacos, or would you rather have a Taco Charlton jersey?
Oh, I answered that easily. 100 tacos all day.
Well, that kind of solidifies your point there. Great way to end. Miller, what about you? Who's your worst pick of the first round?
My worst pick of the first round was easily Corey Davis at number 5. But I want to touch on Adoree really quick. One comment you made specifically saying how you see him as more of a slot guy, more of a nickel guy. I wouldn't argue that. And I would say that that's actually a starting position on defenses nowadays. It's not just a certain package that's used occasionally like 10 years ago. The nickel corner is considered a starting corner nowadays. So that's why, for me, he's still a top 20 player on top of the returnability. But I definitely understand all the knocks that you mentioned. Corey Davis to the Titans. Mariota needs some help. I believe O.J. Howard or Mike Williams would have been a better option there if that's specifically where they wanted to go with that pick. I know those are better options. I had a late first-round grade on him, borderline upper second. He beat up on terrible competition his entire career, and even with the bad competition, he had quite a few games where he just wasn't existent. Against Illinois, Georgia Southern, I believe. A lot of games where he was held. Kent State, under 20 yards, like 2 catches, 18 yards, 3 catches, 16 yards. And this is against Ball State, Kent State, Illinois. So absolutely Corey Davis at pick number 5.
See, I agree with that. It's a reach of 5. I do love Davis. I think they should have probably traded back or taken our advice and take Mike Williams or even Howard. It was definitely a reach there. I definitely agree with that. And then to close out our worst pick of the first round, Maverick, you want to give us yours?
Yeah, I think we can agree that all the receivers honestly were reaches where they were taken. I wouldn't have been surprised to see all 3 of the top tight ends taken ahead of all 3 of the top receivers, but it went completely opposite of that. So my biggest reach was John Ross, especially with the medical concerns. It's just such a risk. He's a very thin built receiver to begin with. His entire game is based on speed, and obviously with all the knee concerns, if he doesn't have his knees, he doesn't have the speed. So he loses the crucial part of his game that he wins with. So John Ross, to me, I had him with the medical concerns outside of the first round, like in the 40s, and he ended up going 9th overall, which is very rich for the risk that you're taking with him.
No, absolutely. And real quick, I just wanted to point out that we all agree Trubisky is actually the worst pick of the first round, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
This was excluding Mitch Trubisky. So I just wanted to let all of our viewers know that we all do not like the Mitch Trubisky pick. And we all wanted to touch on some of the other picks in the first round that we were not big fans of. So now we have the second round. Josh, we'll start with you. Who was your best pick of the second round?
Well, my best pick is going to be actually the Green Bay Packers' Kevin King, because he was actually my number 2 corner in this draft. He's got all the athletic ability. He's got the size. He can cover very well. I just think Green Bay got a steal by trading back and actually getting the number 2 guy in my overall corner rankings.
That's awesome. I mean, my best pick of the second round was Zay Jones, the receiver out of Eastern Carolina. It just makes a ton of sense going to Buffalo now that he's going to be back with his former coach up there in Buffalo. Buffalo did a great move, first of all, by trading back up into the second round by using one of the picks that they received from Kansas City in that deal on day 1. So just an excellent job there. And he's going to give Tyrod Taylor another weapon that he so desperately needs. I mean, Sammy Watkins is barely on the field. And then when he is, he's a stud, don't get me wrong, but the Buffalo Bills need another legit wideout out there for him. And I think Zay is going to be that guy. He's a great route runner, has great quickness. He wins the 50-50 balls, makes a ton of contested catches, and he's just a reception machine. So put him in that run-first offense. I really like it. I think Zay Jones is actually going to have a really good career in Buffalo. Miller, excuse me, Mike, we'll go with you next. Who is your best pick in the second round?
Yeah, let's actually touch on that whole Buffalo situation with trading back up. I know that we didn't discuss this in the pre-show, but did any of you guys hear about the conspiracy theory about the Bills trading ahead of Carolina, where the coach used to be the defensive coordinator?
No.
Yeah, both in the second, in the first, with their first second round pick and their second round pick, they traded right ahead of Carolina and supposedly stole the guys that Carolina had. That there was some sort of leak from the Carolina front office to the Buffalo coaching staff. So they did it with Zay Jones, who apparently Carolina was targeting with their high second round pick. Carolina obviously turned around and took Curtis Samuel.
That worked out okay.
And, well, I mean, we don't know if it worked out, but they apparently wanted Zay Jones ahead of Curtis Samuel, and they did it again in the late second round, where they jumped ahead of him for Deion Dawkins, and Carolina ended up taking Taylor Moton. So just a little interesting potential conspiracy there with some leaked information. But my best pick in the second round was Forrest Lamp, who was my best offensive lineman in the entire draft, and I felt could have gone top 10. He ended up going 38th overall, which was the 6th pick in the second round. It's a great fit for the Chargers. I think that he could actually still play left tackle, even though he's got the shorter arms. I say give him a shot there until he proves that he can't do it. And at worst, you have a really good guard and potentially even a center. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely give him a shot at left tackle first until he proves that he can't handle it.
Awesome. I think the Chargers had a phenomenal draft, just loading up for Phillip Rivers. One last rodeo here, it looks like, with Mike Williams, Dan Feeney, and then your pick right there with the first 3 picks. I thought that was an excellent job. And then to close out our best of the second round, Miller, who you got for us?
I got the one and only Curtis Samuel. I had a top 25 grade on him. He's a plug and play all over the field, kick return, punt return, slot receiver, running back, whatever you need him to do, he's there. He's if you will, the poor man's McCaffrey of the draft, who they also drafted.
Yeah, what are they going to do with both he and McCaffrey, though?
What's that?
Touchdowns?
What are they going to do with both of them? Because doubling up like that, there's only one ball to go around.
Split backs, put one out wide. Good luck covering them.
Make Samuel Ted Ginn.
So I love that pick, and I hate it. Curtis Samuel's one of my favorite players in this draft, but it's the Panthers, so I absolutely despise where he is. It's going to be a mismatch problem because there's already 2 giant wide receivers and Greg Olsen on the field. So that's just going to be trouble, and it just makes his rookie season that much easier for him.
Hey, Jeff, let me cut in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did any of you guys hear the report? I don't know if it's a real report or not, that Kelvin Benjamin apparently is around 280 pounds right now?
I did, and it was refuted immediately. I don't see how that's possible. I've heard he has had problems with his weight before, but
yeah,
280 pounds, that's a lot of weight.
I mean, he made an appearance on Gruden's QB camp. I forget which episode it was, but he didn't look 280. So when I saw that, I didn't really believe it, but if it's anywhere near true, that's a big problem for Carolina.
280.
That's a huge problem, pun intended, for sure.
He's your next tight end.
I mean, they need some defensive linemen.
He could be your backup tight end, yeah.
That is true. So now we'll move on to our worst picks of the second round. And Miller, why don't you just continue with your worst pick of the second round?
My worst pick of the second round, it's less exciting than a lot of the other things we'll be talking about. I feel like it's pretty obvious. The tight end to the Bears at pick 45, Adam Shaheen. I feel like this is someone that a lot of the so-called experts on television and throughout felt like they were being smart and copying each other and just saying he's going to be a sleeper. Oh, I like this guy from a small school, blah, 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 like they tend to do. But to be honest, I had a 5th-round grade on him. He hardly knows his route tree. He's got a lot of blocking to work on. He's, as Mav knows, absolutely, he's a 100% project tight end. Now, he's not a bad project. He's a good body to build off of. But 2nd round is incredibly
Rich.
It's a terrible reach, and it seems like the Bears were kind of following that scheme this year.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Their overall draft as a whole kind of was a little bit of reach here and there. It was just I just didn't get their whole thought process going into it, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it works out for them. Maverick, we'll go with you next. Who was your worst pick of the 2nd round?
Yeah, to carry off of that, I mean, if you really covet a guy, by all means, go ahead. I mean, we've seen the Patriots and several the Seahawks, several other successful teams do that in recent years. I totally get it if you really covet a guy, but he's definitely a project, and I had a 4th-round grade on him. But my worst, and if I may, I actually have 2 because we had one that was going to be discussed by somebody else, and then they dropped him, so I'm going to pick up on him a little bit. But it's another tight end, Gerald Everett. He's a very undersized. He's kind of an Evan Ingram type who went in the 1st round, but he's not nearly the athlete, not nearly as polished a receiver as. Huh?
Not even close, my man.
It's not even close. And there was some talk that the Rams actually had him graded higher than Everett, which is just preposterous to me. He's purely a flex tight end, not much of a blocker at all. Inconsistent routes, inconsistent hands. I see him as a worse version of Lance Kendricks, who they reached on in the 2nd round several years ago. My other one is Justin Evans, who my Bucks took, unfortunately. I had a 4th-round grade on him, and they took him in the 2nd. So, I mean, he's a hitter when it's opportunistic, but he's not a sure tackler. When he's run at, he actually shies away from contact very often. He does have good instincts in the deep field, in the deep secondary on passing, but he's just a liability in the run game, and I just don't value him in the 2nd round at all.
That's great. I mean, my worst pick in the 2nd round was Teez Tabor out of Florida to the Lions. The guy just ran terribly. I feel like he's scared of those guys that have that elite speed. He kind of plays off coverage a little bit too much. And then when you factor in the speed testing and then just the off the field issues with the guy, I just see that he is a complete reach in this round. I mean, I could see maybe taking a flyer on him in the middle of the 3rd round. But when you're a team like the Detroit Lions, who's pretty close to contending like for the next few years, you don't take a guy that has all these character concerns. I know they already took the linebacker Jared Davis out of Florida as well, so maybe they feel like these two are going to mesh well together, being on the same team, and maybe Davis can take him underneath his wing. But I just think that Tabor's already hit his ceiling, and it's kind of how much more are we going to get out of this guy? And then when he faces that elite talent, when he faces that Odell Beckham in week 2 on Monday Night Football, is he going to be able to keep up with him when he's running that deep post route? I don't think so. I think it's a total reach here, and I'm not a fan at all. Mr. Josh, why don't you?
They took him over Awuzie. I thought that was
exactly. I love the Awuzie, and I'm mad as hell that he went to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Awuzie is one of my favorites.
But yeah, my worst pick was going to be originally Adam Shaheen because I knew a lot of people were talking about him in the 2nd round, but I just didn't see him. He didn't have that talent and everything. But I instead went with Sidney Jones. I just didn't like his film. I felt like on film he was already a 2nd round talent, and then put in the ACL injury. I don't think you could take him that early in the 2nd round. He's got talent, but there's a lot more other players that you could. Fabian Moreau, who went a round later, I would have taken above Sidney Jones. So I just think it was a bad pick all around.
That's another one that Tease Tabor went ahead of is Moreau,
Yeah.
which I thought was ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
this deep of a class, I don't think you could really afford to take a gamble on a guy like that this high in the round. I mean, you hope that he maybe falls into the third round, but with the amount of talent that was there, it just really didn't make sense to me.
He didn't have an ACL injury. It was what his Achilles.
Yeah, which is actually kind of scary. It's even more scary for change of direction.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so that concludes our second round picks. Now let's move on to the third, where you could find some extreme value or you can totally reach and just miss like hell, like Jared Reese and the Giants have in the past few years. Let's start with you, Maverick. Who was your best pick in the third round?
This was still not an easy one because there are several. I want to shout out to Trey Hendrickson and Chris Wormley also. But my best pick was Chris Godwin to my Bucks. They redeemed themselves for the Justin Evans pick in round 2. He was my wide receiver too. So to be taken 84 overall is an amazing value. I see him as a Michael Thomas type. He's not going to get as many opportunities considering the amount of talent that they have, and they only have one ball to go around. But he's going to be that outside receiver that will allow Deshaun Jackson to work out of the slot and to create better mismatches. And I see a ton of upside in his game. I really love the pick in the third round.
Yeah, like we said before, that Buck offense is going to be pretty tough to stop here moving forward.
Go Miller.
Especially for some of those weak defenses down there in the South. Miller, do you want to fight back with that one, or do you want to?
No, I don't need to fight back.
Your
got
top
the number one offense in football and Super Bowl under our belt right now. We're good.
While you're at it, why don't you give us your best pick for the third?
Round 3 is probably one of my favorite players in the draft. I'm gonna start calling him Mini Julio. Los Henderson to the Broncos at pick 82. The Yak Monster. An absolute physical presence at the wide receiver position, not scared to go across the middle, takes it deep. Anywhere he catches it, he's going to put somebody in the ground before he goes down. I just absolutely love the guy. He's one of the greatest picks in the third round, without a doubt. Definitely want to give a shout out to, who was it? There was someone else I wanted to mention as well because the third round's full of them. Dante Foreman, I feel like, is an awesome third round pick. I had a second round grade on him. And with the Texans, he's going to have all the opportunity in hometown to get it done. I also loved Fabian Moreau, as we all probably did in the third round.
Solid picks. And then Josh, who's your best pick in the third round?
Well, Miller actually touched on him. Fabian Moreau. I feel like he was a first round talent that just went in the third round. I don't know why. I think it was just because of the cluster of cornerbacks that were actually in this draft. But yeah, he had the pec injury, right?
Yeah.
That what he had. So he's going to be back by training camp, beginning of the year. So it should be good.
Awesome. My best pick of the third round, I'm going to be a homer here a little bit. Shaquille Griffin out of UCF. This guy had one of the best off seasons of anybody in this draft. He had an amazing game at the NFLPA All-Star game. Did allow one reception in that game. He's extremely athletic. He ranked inside the top 5 among cornerbacks at the scouting combine within the 40-yard vertical, the broad, and the 60-yard shuttle. So just freak athlete right there. He actually, just his athletic ability alone is worthy of a spot right here. And he's going to a Seahawk team that's going to get the best out of his ability. I mean, he's going to be paired with Richard Sherman. I don't know if he's going to get the start right away, but he's going to learn from some of the best in the business. And I think he couldn't have gone to a better spot. The Seahawks obviously did their homework. They traded back a few times, acquired a couple extra picks, and he gave them extreme value right there in the third round. Now that we're done with our top picks of the third round, let's move on to our worst picks of the third round. I guess I'll start with my worst pick of the third round, which was Cooper Kupp to the Los Angeles Rams. I really like Cooper Kupp as a player, but the testing it just didn't seem right in the third round. I feel like he's a little too slow. He's definitely a natural pass catcher, I want to say, but I just don't see him being able to fight off some of these elite NFL cornerbacks. It's going to take a lot for him to get used to that level of competition playing at Eastern Washington. It's going to be a whole different animal when he goes up against some of those elite corners, especially in the NFC West and the Seahawks. So I think the Rams just reached on a lot of picks, and he was definitely one of them, especially in an offense where they needed a top flight playmaker. I don't think they got one in this draft that's going to help out day one. So next, let's go over to Josh. Who was your worst pick of the third round?
My worst pick was just because of who was available already. John Johnson, who went to the Rams. I think you had Eddie Jackson still available. You had Xavier Woods still available. I think Xavier Woods could have went. I mean, in my opinion, he could have went second round. Obviously, the NFL didn't agree with that, but I just, I don't know. I just feel like Woods and Jackson are available. How can you take Johnson there?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go on to Maverick. Who was yours?
I mean, for me, it was the most obvious third round pick of all of us in C.J. Beathard. I think that's real obvious, but I actually want to touch on Cooper Kupp also, not to pile on, but what's really the difference between he and guys like Garrett Dieter, Tanner Gentry, Austin Carr, scrappy guys that are good route runners, reliable hands that went undrafted? And you're taking a guy in the third round. Why?
What's the difference between them and the guy in Miami right now?
Jarvis Landry?
Yeah.
I mean,
you're just hoping to get that Jarvis Landry.
I guess. I mean, I get that he's a good team guy. I get that he's smart. I just don't see the value in the third round though. When I saw him at the Senior Bowl, he was bottom half of the receivers that were there. They kind of redeemed themselves a little bit by taking Josh Reynolds in the fourth round. I don't think any of us picked him as the fourth round guy that we really like, but Josh Reynolds could have easily gone second or third round, and they ended up taking Kupp in the third and getting Josh Reynolds in the fourth. But I just don't see the value there compared to other guys.
Yeah, actually, in our previous podcast, I had Reynolds as my sleeper coming into the draft, and I guess that paid off a little bit because he did go a little later than expected. So I guess he was a sleeper to a lot of teams. Miller, let's close it out with you. Who's your worst third round pick?
Yeah, my worst third round pick was probably one of the easiest decisions for me in this whole process. Brendan Langley to the Broncos, who've also got Los Henderson. I didn't even have a draftable grade on the guy. I don't see a very high football IQ. He struggles terribly in man-to-man. He's a huge project, and I don't understand at all especially a team that has such quality corners, what they see in this guy. It's almost like, are you watching your own guys in practice? What are you seeing? I don't understand. But I did want to say something else about Carlos Henderson real quick. I forgot to mention, I truly feel that he's the best weapon on their offense now. And I 100% feel that way. I don't say whatever you want about Bebe, but Los is that dude now. So
even over Emmanuel Sanders, huh?
You got Emmanuel.
Yeah, I mean Demarius, Emmanuel. That's pretty impressive right there, man.
Yeah, I have one more thing
with it.
Add on to the Langley point.
Yeah, go ahead.
If guys that I see at the Senior Bowl, Langley, if you watch any of the highlights from the Senior Bowl, any of the highlights that they show for receivers or quarterbacks, either during the week of practice or during the game, 3 out of 4 of them were against Langley. He was the highlight maker for the opponents, unfortunately. And I get that it's because he's from a smaller school. He had less experience in different coverages that he was asked to do at the Senior Bowl. He has the physical ability. I don't question that at all. He's a 6-foot corner that runs 4.4. I get it. But he has such a long way to go as far as technique and awareness that there's just no value there in the third round.
No, I agree, especially with coming from the small school. It's just it's a correlation of everything. But now let's move on to the fourth round. A guy that a lot of us thought could be a first or second round pick. He slipped down into the fourth. Josh, we'll start with you. Who was your best pick in the fourth round?
I think this one's by far the easiest one. Carl Lawson. The only reason he could have fell was because of his injury concerns.
Yes.
He, in my opinion, has the best turn of the corner in this draft to get to the quarterback. He's amazing at rushing the passer. He's a little smaller than you want if you're going to put your hand in the dirt, but if you're playing outside linebacker, he can really get to the quarterback. And he should have been at least a second round pick. I don't get why he didn't go that higher than that.
I'm all aboard on Lawson. I know we were talking during the draft and we were just all in shock how he just kept falling down. But I mean, when you have injury histories like that and concerns, it makes sense. Teams don't want to take chances, but we've seen them do it with other guys in the past. So I felt like Lawson deserved to go a lot higher than what he did. Miller, on to you. Who was your top pick in the fourth round?
Can you hear us?
Miller,
You might be having trouble.
Yes, sir.
who's your top pick in the fourth?
My best pick of the fourth round was Eddie Jackson. I had a first round grade on him.
The Bears.
Probably the best player the Bears selected this year. Should be a day one starter. Like I said, I had a first round grade on the guy. He only slid due to injury, I guess. Due to injuries past. He's by far one of the most athletic safeties in the class. A fantastic ball hawk, great tackler, incredible leader, and has returnability.
You love him.
So I mean, I love everything about the guy's all-around game.
I like him a lot more than I do, but I do agree that he was of definite value in the fourth round.
Did you buy his jersey yet, Miller?
Not a Bears jersey.
You can log on to
Go for it.
You want to give him that link so you can buy his jersey?
Sound like him tackling.
FootballAlliance.com Cover Force Shop.
I don't think he's that great of
Cover
a tackler.
Force Shop.
I'll let you shout it out at the end of the show too, Mike. But I'll move on to
We'll put it in the description.
Exactly. My top pick is actually going to be a big time surprise. I know you guys are probably going to argue with me on this one, but it's Joe Williams from Utah. I read Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterback article this morning, and I just kind of fell in love with the guy. He's had a tough upbringing, but when he came back to the team, he was ready to go. I mean, this guy carried them, had 1,400 yards this year, at a game where he had over 300 against UCLA at UCLA. Just a dominant guy. I mean, John Lynch wasn't the biggest fan of him. He took him off his board, but Kyle Shanahan stuck by this guy, fell in love, said, hey, I feel like this guy has turned his life around. Let's bring him in. So I feel like if a coach loves a guy that much and he tells his GM, hey, let's go get this guy, I'm all for it. I think it's an awesome pick. I think this guy is going to be a big-time story, and we're going to look back in a year or two and be like, wow, Joe Williams was a superb value pick in the fourth round. So, Maverick, I know you're going to have some rebuttal for what I just said. We'll let you close out the top of the fourth round.
Well, not close out yet. We still have Miller to get to. But, yeah, I will rebut that a little bit. I definitely understand the story, and it's good that he's turning his life around. I'm all for that, but there's so much risk involved with his desire to play and just the character concerns in general, the mental stability, to what I had with Reuben Foster. But I definitely understand that he was dominant when he team, but you also have to consider he was playing behind 4 offensive linemen that got drafted. So that does play a bit of a role. He had the best offensive line in the Pac-12 by far. But to move on from that, my best pick was Samaje Perine. For him to fall to the fourth round, and especially to fall into a situation where he could be a day one starter in Washington, is just, if you're looking for a fantasy sleeper, that's the guy, because he could very easily put up Jordan Howard type numbers.
Or Kareem Hunt.
And Kareem Hunt also. Yeah, I love Kareem Hunt also. You guys know that. But I mean, for fourth round value, Samaje Perine could get 1,200 yards as a rookie, 12 plus touchdowns. That's an amazing value pick right there. And we also I also touched on a little bit last round that Josh Reynolds being taken in the fourth round was great value.
Yep, I agree with that. Perine, he's gonna unfortunately dominate the NFC East this year. I was not happy about that pick. I was kind of hoping the Giants would snag him up, but here we are, and I have to root against them. So
Hey, but
now,
you guys are gonna get the Garrett Blount, man. You'll be good.
that's what I'm waiting on that, man. Let's get that deal done. What are we waiting
yeah.
on? I don't get it. But moving on to our worst picks of the fourth round, I'll start off with Monte Nicholson, the safety out of Michigan State. This guy just had surgery for a torn labrum in March. It looks like he's gonna not be ready for training camp. I just don't like really anything about his game. I feel like he avoids contact at all levels. It doesn't want to get dirty at all. I just don't like him as a tackler. Not a big fan of him at all.
He's a good athlete, but that's where it ends.
What's that?
He's a good athlete, but that's where it ends.
Exactly. It's basically he looks good and then it doesn't show up on the field. He's a track star and then that's about it. So to me, it's just a reach in the fourth round. You want to take him sixth round, okay, but fourth round, I'm not having it whatsoever. Josh, we'll move on to you. Who was your worst of the fourth?
Mine is going to be Michael Roberts, just because, again, who is available out there. I mean, I forget who was already available that I had out there.
A lot of guys.
Let me. Who did I tell you guys earlier? I forget who it was now.
Kittle.
Yeah, you had Kittle. You had Jake Butt out there.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's better value again. Just the same thing I said, John Johnson. What's that?
Sprinkle was still available. I think Leggett may have been.
Yeah, see? You got good talent, and you're going to get Michael Roberts, of all people?
Hey, Michael Roberts is not a bad player, but
there's better value on the board.
Yeah.
I feel like he could be sneaky good. We'll see. I don't know. We'll move on though. We'll go to. How about we go to Miller? We'll let you give us your worst of the fourth.
My worst of the fourth. It's not. It could be worse, but my worst of the fourth is Wayne Gallman to the Giants at pick 140. Sorry to tell you. I feel like Wayne benefited from an absolutely loaded offense. Giant gaping holes to run through, huge wide open screens to catch. Just threats all over the field to worry about with Deshaun Watson and sharing the field with all those Clemson wide receivers that seem to always be there. There was nothing about his tape or his game that jumps out to you that says, hey, I'm amazing at this. It's just he was a serviceable.
He's good at a lot of things, but not great at. He's good at a lot of things, but not great at anything.
Right, he's good at a lot of things and surrounded by endless talent, which makes him part of the party. But he's not running the party. It's not his house. So, yeah, that's my pick for the worst of round four. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's gonna have that same problem in New York too, because we, as you guys know, we don't have the best offensive line. So we'll see what he does. But I'm hoping we get LeGarrette Blount. Some other guys I wanted to mention quickly now that we're done with our coverage here. Chad Kelly. I kind of was talking to the guys before, and I made a bold prediction. You guys can laugh. Mention me in the comments if you want. I believe that Chad Kelly has the potential to be the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos by 2018.
Hey, that could happen. If you
Just
save
gonna throw it out there.
He absolutely has the potential.
Well, saves out trouble, he can definitely do it.
His ability is first round caliber, no question. The issues are character and obviously some medical concerns now also with the ACL and the wrist injury, but it's character first and foremost. He has to be able to keep his nose clean, literally and figuratively.
Hell yeah, dude. Chad definitely be tearing it up in Denver with Carlos Henderson.
Yeah. No, I mean he absolutely could be a superstar if he gets everything together.
Is that
But
his
I wanted
throwing
to
grade?
mention I wanted to mention my fourth round pick since you skipped me, but Jehu Chesson, I don't see the value at all in the fourth round. He's coming off of a down year. I understand that's because of injury, but you drafted a special teamer in the fourth round, which was way too rich for me considering other talent that was on the board still.
Absolutely. Can't argue with that. I definitely had a couple I wanted to shout out as well. I feel like possibly I would say if I had to pick two picks that were the best in the draft as far as just getting talent late, round 6, pick 201, Bucky Hodges. Are you kidding me?
I should have put a bet on that one before we started.
Are you serious though? Okay, so you got the mammoth of a man that is an absolute athletic freak and a first round grade in my book in the 6th round of 201st pick.
Oh, straight fire being shot here.
Well done, Vikings. And also another one that's just unbelievable to me. One of my top DBs in the class and a first round grade, Desmond King, down to round 5. Just because he lacks a little bit of athleticism doesn't mean he can't survive in the NFL.
A lot of it. He lacks a lot of bit of athleticism.
He's probably the best zone player in the draft. Might have the best ball skills in the draft.
I think Dan Skipper is more athletic than him.
He only missed 11 tackles out of almost 200 attempts.
Easy, Josh.
He had the lowest missed tackle percentage of any DB in the entire class.
That's why he's going to be a good safety.
Wherever you want to put him in that secondary, he's going to ball. And for the Chargers, a team that plays nearly always zone, I love it.
I definitely love him as a nickel corner or a safety. I have him graded as the best value in the 5th round if we would have continued to go. But I had a late 2nd to early 3rd round grade on him. If we're doing shout outs beyond the 4th round here, definitely have to shout out to I know who Josh is going to go with.
Ooh, buddy, there he is, number 2 on that list.
Yeah,
there he
but
is.
Isaac, 2 offensive linemen really stood out to me in the 5th round: Isaac Asiata and Will Holden. For what they already are now, they're plug-and-play starters, in my opinion. Roderick Johnson, also in the 5th round, has all the athletic potential to be a starting left tackle if they can clean up his technique in Cleveland. He could potentially be the left tackle of the future after Joe Thomas.
That Roderick Johnson pick was good too.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you said Will Holden. Sorry.
No, Will Holden's a plug and play guy. I said Roderick Johnson as far as if they can develop his technique. I really love Blair Brown, Aaron Jones, and George Kittle also in the 5th round. I'm not going to get too in depth on them. Aaron Jones, I had a 3rd round grade on. Kittle, I had a 3rd round grade on. Blair Brown, I had a 3rd round grade on. So, yeah, I mean, tons of talent slipped through the cracks. Also, Eric Salbert, and I'm going to stop hogging the floor and let somebody else talk.
Hey, shout out to DeMonte KZ, the ball hawk himself, joining the Fast and Furious Falcons defense. I love that pick. That dude's going to fit in perfect with our scheme, and I expect him to fit kind of a Kevin Mathis style role. We haven't had one of those guys in a while.
Yeah.
Also, I want to shout out Tenzel Smart, round 6, tough, gritty, pocket-sized Aaron Donald, although he's not pocket-sized. I'll cap it off right there.
And I think we all owe a shout out to James Conner.
Absolutely.
Great 3rd round pick by the Steelers.
Yeah.
That was an awesome for him to be in that situation. He's going to be a great backup, great insurance policy to Le'Veon Bell. Potentially even move to fullback and have them both on the field at the same time. I think that's an awesome pick.
He's by far my favorite player in this entire draft. Just for everything off the field and what I liked about him before what happened. He's just, oh my goodness.
Yeah, just being able to stay in that same building is just awesome. Around all the people he just spent his toughest times with, now they get to cheer him on in Pittsburgh. You couldn't ask for a better situation. I think it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's sweet.
He's the epitome and hustle and just a grinder. So I'm all for it. I love the situation there. That was awesome.
Love seeing guys like that succeed. But that'll do it for the Cover 4 podcast tonight. We will be going over each team division by division in the coming episode. So make sure to check that out. You can follow us all on Twitter. Those handles will be in the YouTube description. So make sure you go check that out. It's YouTube.
And the draft recap.
And the draft recap as well. That'll all be there. As long the football. We might have to cut that out. But
It's staying.
We ain't cutting it out. That's staying on the wall.
Mike would stop interrupting me, damn it.
Are we going to have an attack moment here?
Probably should.
Keep going. Close it out.